Hello and welcome to Resource Report, where we share with you important information about local nonprofits and resource organizations that support the community we share, produced by Pathways to Agency.
I am your host, Rainmaker. Today's guest is the Executive Director of the Centralia location of the Community Mediation Center. I sat down with Laura Hight in her office on location. Here's Laura. I am here at the Community Mediation Center located in Centralia, Washington, with Laura Hight, Executive Director. Hi there. How are you doing, Laura?
Very good, thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Can you reintroduce yourself, your position, and how did you come to be here?
Sure, yes. Thanks for having me, first of all. I have been with the Mediation Center for 4.5 years. And I've been the executive director for about 1.5 years. My background is actually in restaurant and retail management, and so not a mediation background at all. But I took the training course back in 2021 and just absolutely fell in love with mediation in general, abandoned my previous career and decided to jump ship and come here instead, and I have never looked back.
That's awesome. Hey, let me tell you, I have been in retail for 10 years. I have been in the restaurant industry for maybe about 10 years. I know.
Feels like
that you have gotten,
Yes, it does.
some mediation skills from that job.
Yes, I think that is what the training really kind of woke up in me, is that this is something that both as a parent and as a manager, I've been doing mediation for years, and this just kind of put some polishing notes on some of those things that I've been doing, and I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Can you share what the Community Mediation Center is about?
Yes. So very, very brief history. The Community Mediation Center has been around since 1993, and it was started by a group of concerned individuals who said there's a lot of cases showing up in court that could probably be resolved somewhere else outside of court with a little extra help. So they kind of banded together and decided that they would start a volunteer organization. It's gone through many names, but I believe it started as the Community Mediation Center, and it's come back to that now. And it was really people who had the compassion for their neighbors and the skills to help them work through their disputes, to help them stay out of the court system with things like parenting plans and divorces and consumer merchant issues. So that's kind of the roots of where it started. And we do a lot of what you would consider family law cases. So when you ask what we do day in and day out, I would say we do a lot of parenting plans and divorces. And while we don't do the legal side of that, where we help people fill out the paperwork, we help people sort out their issues, and then they can put that down on a form and take it to the court. So we help them with the nitty-gritty. And we do other things as well, which I can get into, but mostly parenting plans and divorces.
That's wonderful. That's so efficient.
It is definitely something that when folks hear about us, they say, oh, I wish you'd been around when I was going through my divorce or when I was working on my parenting plan. It is such a less painful process than court. I really am a huge advocate for it. Whether or not it's through our center, it's a huge benefit to the community to be able to kind of resolve your own issues and stay out of court, time saving, money saving, and you get to be the one to decide what your resolution is rather than a judge telling you what to do, which I don't think anybody really likes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Y'all are located here in Centralia, but do you have other locations?
We do. So we serve Lewis County, and then we also serve Cowlitz County. We have a physical office in both places. So our office here is in downtown Centralia, and we have an office in downtown Longview. We've only been down there for, I want to say, just about 4 years, about the same length of time that I've been here. And so we do the same cases. We do parenting plans and divorces down there. We've been serving Cowlitz County since our inception in 1993, but sometimes it's just so hard to not have a physical location that a few years ago we said, let's just open a brick and mortar and make sure that we're available for walk-ins. And it's been a really great decision. We've had a lot of folks just pop in and find out what we're about, and that's been a really good change. So I'm hoping that continues for another 30 years.
Wonderful. Oh, that's so convenient. There is another kind of place that does something like this in Thurston County, the Dispute Resolution Center. Now, y'all are not connected at all, or is there some connection?
There is some connection. That's a great question. So out of the 39 counties in Washington state, there is a dispute resolution center, which is kind of our generic term that serves every one of those counties. So there's 21 of us, and we are kind of sister organizations with the DRC of Thurston County. We are a part of a larger organization called Resolution Washington, and they are the statewide organization that helps us, lobby for tax dollars if we need to get those. It helps us with our statewide messaging, our statewide training, and our standards to make sure that we're all operating on a similar level and providing the same high quality of service everywhere. So while each center is its own individual business with its own staff and its own director, we do all kind of answer to that higher power across the state, which I think is a huge benefit. It gives us a lot of continuity, and it helps us pull great ideas from other organizations. If they have a program that's really successful, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can call them up and say, hey, can you share your curriculum? Can you share your successes? And if we find that that's an opportunity in our county, we can kind of, beg, borrow, and steal some of their things and create it here as well. So overall, it's been a great thing.
That is very good to know and very useful too. Like if you have someone in another county, but they're dealing with an issue that in part may have something to do with something going on in another county. And maybe the rules are different across counties. Y'all can connect and collaborate about that much easier.
Absolutely. There's even Resolution Oregon. So if we have people down in Rainier or Portland who are dealing with things, there's quite a few. There's Resolution Virginia, Resolution Ohio. So it's not in all of the states yet, but there's usually a dispute resolution center near to you, and we all communicate very well and work together. So if, someone's up in Thurston County, we'll point them in that direction and they'll be met with open arms up there.
Oh, that's wonderful. So let's talk about those services.
Sure. So like I said before, we do a lot of parenting plans and divorces, and that's not the case for every center. Some cases do a lot more landlord-tenant issues. It just kind of depends on the demographics and the makeup and the rural versus urban of each county. Like King County, obviously, they do a lot more landlord-tenant issues than we might do in Lewis County. But that is a service that we offer as well. So if you are a landlord and you're having issues collecting rent, or you have some renters who, have lease violations and you're not sure how to approach them or work that out, or if you're a renter and your landlord isn't repairing things, or, you have some questions about your rental agreement and you're not sure who to turn to, you can't afford an attorney, you can come talk to us and we can help establish those lines of communication. And we have a lot of experience with the kind of local landlord-tenant rules and laws, and we can kind of help you navigate that in a less adversarial way for $150 as opposed to hundreds or thousands that you might pay an attorney. So that's definitely been a big one since COVID, and there have been a lot of issues that have come up with very unique renting situations as people have kind of flexed and moved around. And of course, the housing market is challenging as always. That's definitely an arm of our organization that we're going to see growing a lot more in the future.
Awesome. And then you also have this one's new on your website, 90-minute conflict workshops.
Yes. So we love conflict, right? I mean, that's our staff and volunteers. That's our job security, is that people have conflict when they work and live with each other. However, when people come to mediation, we are usually responding to a crisis that has already happened. We are helping people kind of pick up the pieces after things have already gone off the rails. And so we said, why don't we try and get ahead of this a little bit more and put some what do they call it, preventive medicine out there for the community. So a lot of DRCs around the state have really strong training programs, and we have historically not been one of those, and we want to build that arm of our organization up. So 90 minutes is about as long as we can keep anyone's attention, or at least that's as long as my attention span lasts usually. So what we have done is we kind of took some of the greatest hits of the issues that we see come up in mediation. Where does it go wrong? What do people wish they knew that would have kept them out of mediation? And we kind of broke it down into half a dozen mini lessons. One is how to deal with an angry person and de-escalate. De-escalation is a huge word that gets thrown around from the classroom to the police force to, people in relationship. So we teach a 30-minute de-escalation training. We teach one on the 5 different conflict styles. We teach one on just delivering bad news. And if you've worked in retail or anytime when you're in customer service, you have to deliver some bad news to people at some point. And that is intimidating, and we're not all wired to just be able to do that. So we have taken kind of, 6 of those greatest hits, broken them down into 30-minute sections, and then we let folks kind of pick from those and put together their own 90-minute training of what they think their staff or their nonprofit would benefit from the most. And if there's one that they really want their staff trained on that they don't see on the list, we can customize and make it just for them. And it's been really successful. We've done this in both counties for about a year now, and we're looking forward to serving more.
Where do you have those workshops?
So we can have them here in our offices. We can usually fit, in our Lewis County office, probably 8 to 12 people comfortably with lots of room to move around. But a lot of folks like to have the training in their location. So we will usually travel to you. So we did a veterinary clinic not that long ago, and they closed their office for lunch, and we just did the training right there in their lobby. So usually folks find it a little bit more comfortable to do the training in their environs. So that's what we'll do. And if you're anywhere in Lewis County, we will travel to you. We'll bring all the supplies. It's very hands-on in each of our modules. We do a very brief lecture, and then we do an interactive kind of activity to really kind of seal those lessons in, because people sit around and listen all day long, and we like them to kind of do. There's a lot of kinetic learners like myself out there, so all of our workshops are very hands-on, and we leave you with the printed notes so you don't have to take any, and hopefully you can take those things and apply them directly to your workplace.
Yeah. So it sounds like typically that would be businesses that would ask for a workshop to be held. Do you do that at schools at all or other organizations?
We have done other nonprofits. So we've done a few nonprofits down in Cowlitz County, and I think we have one scheduled up here with the Salvation Army in Lewis County. We would do churches, we would do schools, any organization that's not a family would pretty much benefit from this. So yes, I'd say businesses and nonprofits are our main scope, but if you have a group of people that might not be getting along or want to do conflict better, we can certainly come to you.
Okay. What does a workshop look like?
So a workshop looks like, we'll get a little information from you about, who's going to be there, what their positions are. And sometimes we like to have a few job descriptions about what the staff is dealing with. And if you have a lot of customer-focused issues, we like to know that ahead of time so we can make sure we're tailoring our training to some scenarios that are customer-based. If you are an internal organization and you really have some interpersonal conflict, we like to know a little bit about that so we can, schedule our mark scenarios around those types of things. So we really want to make it customizable. And then we have a staff of trainers. There's 4 of us that will pop in, introduce ourselves. We pull up with a whiteboard and some handouts, and we'll do a little training, do a little interactive activity. Sometimes we bring snacks, and then we'll go over the materials that you've chosen. So we try and fit 3 distinct lessons into that 90-minute training, and then we're out the door and you're on your way.
So thank you. I want to clarify the scope and context of those conflict workshops, because it sounds almost like you're teaching the group how to resolve conflicts within themselves. But what if there really isn't any, and it's really just more for this is how we do it for maybe our clients or more for each other?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it could be variable depending on the circumstance.
Yeah. Well, I would say I would love to work in a place where there's no interpersonal conflicts. I have yet to find one. But there is a lot of, like I said, kind of that preventive training. And there are all kinds of levels of conflict. There's internal conflict that you can have, and we have training on that. And there are so many different communication styles that we can bring you some information that can help prevent future conflict as well. So lots of people have a hard time, like I said, delivering bad news or hearing bad news. And sometimes when you work in a group, you're going to have to share some bad news with each other. And we can give you some tips and tricks on how best to do that and how to avoid future conflict, because it is just a part of the fabric of our lives. So it is inevitable, like death and taxes, and we like to give people the tools that they can tuck away for a rainy day when they do need to pull those out.
That's a little more clear. Thank you. You are listening to Resource Report on Chaos and my interview with Executive Director Laura Hight of the Community Mediation Center in Centralia. After a brief message, we'll be right back.
Are you having a conflict with a roommate, professor, neighbor, coworker, or partner? Do you want to learn how to communicate more effectively at the workplace, in class, and at home? The CARE Network on the Evergreen campus and the Dispute Resolution Center in downtown Olympia provide mediation, conflict resolution, and training services to all South Sound residents, including students, staff, faculty, and other state employees. Evergreen campus community members can contact the CARE Network at 360-867-5291, by email at carenetwork@evergreen.edu, or at their office in the Public Services Center, Seminar 2 Building, Room E, 2129. For all other South Sound residents, contact the Dispute Resolution Center at 360-956-1155 or visit mediatethurston.org.
Welcome back to Resource Report. Let's return to hear more from our guest, Laura Hight of the Community Mediation Center of Centralia. And you also have parent-teen mediations.
Yes. So this is another one that kind of sprung up from working with people who are working on their parenting plan. And, when your kids are little, they, do what they're told. They like to follow the rules. When they're 6 and 7 and 8, it's pretty easy to kind of manage them. And then as they get older, they have more agency. They have more ideas. They want to express themselves in different ways. And I think all parents struggle with that transition from kids who love to follow the rules to kids who love to challenge the rules. And so we have found that sometimes including teens, and when I say that, I mean anyone from 12 to 20, in that parenting plan, not in the creation of it, because that's a legal document for adults, but in the dispute resolution of when we have a parenting plan and the parents love it, but the kids don't, how are we going to navigate that? And how are we going to talk about these issues? Just because they're a minor, just because they are, under their parents' household doesn't mean that they necessarily love all those rules. So in certain situations, we've been able to bring teens into that conversation and say, tell me about what you're experiencing at home. Tell me about the boundaries that you want to establish. Tell me about some of the rules that your parents think are great that maybe you don't agree with. And how can we work together a little bit more on a peer-to-peer level as these kids are getting their own autonomy? They're going to be adults soon. They're going to need to be able to negotiate and advocate for themselves, and they can really start practicing that at home. A lot of kids learn that at their first job, but we're thinking, you can start that even earlier. So not all cases are good for parent-teen mediation, but a lot of them we find it's a huge relief for these kids to be able to sit down and speak uninterrupted to their parent. Sometimes we take that for granted. A lot of kids don't get that opportunity. So looking forward to doing more of those in the future.
That's huge to feel heard like that in the adult space.
Yeah, I think it's at any age, it's important to feel heard. And I think a lot of times we see in our mediations, people can kind of talk themselves down just by being able to get things off their chest, being able to finish a sentence that they haven't been able to finish, even through tears or through anger. Sometimes that can diffuse a lot, and you realize that your two positions are a lot closer than you thought once you kind of get everything out on the table. And that's true for teens as well as adults.
For sure. So you have workplace conflicts, division of property?
Yeah. So we definitely do workplace conflict, and that would be similar to a mediation where we're responding to maybe a couple different departments that are not getting along, or a couple different people within a department that are not getting along. Because just like our families, there is a specific workplace dynamic, and there's friction, there's conflict. Just because you work with someone for a long time doesn't mean you necessarily get along with them. Sometimes it can be a difference in work styles. Sometimes it can be a difference in what everybody's having for lunch. It doesn't really matter. But over time, the people that we work with are kind of like our second family. And sometimes when things do not get resolved, they just tend to fester and tend to get worse. And that can lead to high turnover if you're an employer. And it can lead to really low job satisfaction if you're getting up every day to go to a place you don't want to go because you have a conflict with the person sitting next to you, we realize that can be as impactful as a divorce or a parenting plan mediation. So we can come in and work with groups of 2 up to, 15 or 20. We've done colleges, we've done small city governments, and we've done small businesses here in town. People working together is just, you're going to have conflict. So we can, kind of come in, listen to each side individually, kind of parse out what the main issues are, and then have everyone sit down and come up with kind of some new normals, some new working agreements of, here's what's bothering everyone and can we get past it? And most of the time, people want to get past it. It's usually a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, and we've been pleasantly surprised at the outcomes for those.
Oh, for sure. You have some amazing testimonials there I looked at. What are the most handled cases you mediate? What do you see the most?
So I'll kind of just stick with parenting plans to start. And the issues that we see the most are when 2 parents separate and they're operating fine on their own. And then one of those, or maybe both of those, starts a relationship with a new partner. And that can really change kind of the values and the practices and the schedules of the whole family, and the kids get caught in the middle. So that is definitely a catalyst for people coming in and wanting to make changes to their parenting plan. Maybe they're in a relationship with someone who has kids of their own and they want to make sure those plans align. That's definitely something that we see a lot. So heads up that if that's the situation you're in, you may want to come and see us. Another one is, just like I said earlier, kids going from that elementary school to middle school, high school age. The parenting plan that you have when your kids are young is really probably not going to work when the kids are older. They're teens, they're driving, they have social kind of pressures of their own. And so I would say, to parents out there, you're probably going to have at least 3 different iterations of your parenting plan. And that's a good thing, because as you change as individuals, your kids will also change. The expectations that you have as a family, because you really are still a family, those can change as well. And so I would say that, get used to revisiting that every few years and saying, does this parenting plan still work for our family? And if it doesn't, don't be afraid to come sit down and talk with us and change it. You'll be glad you did it sooner rather than later and waiting till everything, goes off the rails.
For sure. Is there any problem that's too small?
Oh, no, there's no problem that's too small. We've had people come in and we've had people mediate about their pet specifically through the divorce. We've had people bring up Legos. We've had people bring up knitting supplies. We've had people bring up everything, whether it's seems small to us, it's not small to them. It's your life. It's your struggle that you are faced with every day. And if you are losing sleep, if you are upset about it, then it's worth discussing. So I would say, don't worry about anything feeling too small. If it's bothering you, it's not too small.
Yeah, I asked specifically because I feel like some people might be embarrassed to come to you for, I can't even think of any good examples, but I think Legos sound like a good example of that. Which kid gets the Legos when the parents separate, and which kid goes to live with the which parent?
Exactly.
Something like that. Legos are a big deal, man.
It is, and they're not cheap either. So I understand it's an investment by parents, but no, I would say, those smaller things are really just the tip of the iceberg, to use an overused metaphor. There are always things underneath the topics that bring people to us. And something that we've heard, we've had cases recently that they come in about a business deal that gone wrong, and really it's about the apology that they want to hear, or really it's about the fact that they felt taken for granted, or the fact that they felt taken advantage of. And yes, we're coming in to talk about the money, we're coming in to talk about the business, but really their feelings are hurt. And if you're coming in about something small like Legos, maybe you're feeling unappreciated, maybe you're feeling taken for granted, then those are not small things. Those are not small feelings. And if left unattended, they will only grow. So think of it as much as an emotional mediation as it is about the practicality.
For sure. For sure. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Can you outline the process that one goes through? They fill out the form online, and then what?
Definitely. So, one of our kind of foundational core beliefs is we want to be accessible to everyone, and we want people to be able to approach conflict in any way that works for them. So you can walk into one of our offices, you can call us up on the phone, or you can, like you mentioned, click on our website and submit a form that basically just says, here's my name, here's my contact information, here's what county I live in. You can leave a brief description of your issue, or you can just say, please contact me. Someone from our office will reach out to you, and every single one of our staff members is a trained and practicing mediator. So you're not going to get someone who doesn't actively mediate. So they're going to be able to answer your questions from firsthand information and knowledge, which I think is a huge benefit. You're going to be talking with a mediator when you call. They will talk about your situation and say, what's going on. And you can kind of download maybe 5 minutes worth of your story, maybe 30 minutes worth of your story, however long it takes. And we will decide then if your case is something that we can mediate. Every now and then, specifically if there's some active domestic violence going on, or if there's, a few other extenuating circumstances, there's a few types of cases that we don't handle. So we may say, this is something that you should seek legal advice before coming to us. But most cases can be mediated. And so what we'll do is we'll kind of talk about the process and explain what mediation looks like to you, answer any questions you have, and then we'll ask, would you like us to reach out to the other party? And if you say, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I think I understand what I'm getting myself into. This is a case that can be mediated. We will then contact the other party with whatever information you give us. So if you have a phone number or an email address or even a physical address, we can mail them a letter and we'll say, hey, we've been contacted by so-and-so and they would like to mediate with you. We don't go into any details about what you told us. We just say, is it something that you'd like to mediate, and give them the general topic. We're going to talk about a parenting plan or talk about a car. And then we answer all of that person's questions, because a lot of people have no idea when they're being asked to mediate. What does that mean? What am I being asked to do? Is this an attorney? And so we explain the whole process to the other side so you don't have to, and answer all their questions. And if they say, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to agree, but sure, I'll sit down and have the conversation, and they agree to mediate, then we can move forward. And we don't collect any fees until that happens. So that's when we would reach out back to you and say, okay, so we reached out to the other party, we contacted them, we explained what mediation is, and they would like to mediate because it's always voluntary. And then that's when we would send a fee letter out to both sides. And depending on the type of case, we do try and keep our fees very, very low. For a family parenting plan or divorce, it's $250 for each party, and that pays for two 2-hour sessions. So you're getting 4 total hours of mediation time for $250 each, which I think holds up pretty well for attorneys' fees locally, at least. So we do try and keep it manageable. And then we do have a sliding scale that we operate on. So if you have limited ability to pay, or you have a lot of expenses and you're just not in a place where you can afford $250, we have a 1-page, very brief application for those reduced fees that you can fill out online or you can fill out in our office, and we can reduce that all the way down to $0. If you really want to mediate and you have no means by which to pay, we will absolutely allow you to mediate. So we can take it all the way down to $0 if we need to.
Yeah, the application for reduced fees form looks pretty solid. There's a lot of different things to mark off. It's collecting your financial information and what kind of support that you're already receiving, and things like that. It looks pretty good. And this is all good and confidential, safe format online.
Absolutely. Yeah. So confidentiality we take very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
We're asking people to share things that are very personal, both in the mediation session and their financial information online. So we make sure that that's absolutely confidential and only handled by the people that need to know it.
Yeah, the question on the cost of services page, the parent teen, it says a $155/no cost. So
Absolutely.
what's that?
So So again, if there is absolutely no ability to pay, we are going to offer our services for free. However, a lot of people do have the ability to pay, and we find that when people are financially invested, they're also emotionally and intellectually invested as well. So we do feel like there is a value to our services, and if people have the ability to pay, we like to give them the opportunity to do so, to keep us supported, keep our doors open for the people that really can't. So what we like to do with the parent-teen mediation is we're not going to charge the teens for mediation. Most of them don't have jobs, or if they do, those dollars are very precious to them. However, most of the parents do have that ability. So we'll, charge the parents $150, which is, pretty minimal. And then, we don't charge the teen anything and come in and mediate for them.
Okay. That makes a little more sense now, the context looking at that, because under in the third column there's three columns: the type of service, the cost, and then how long the session is. And then you have each parent, or per person, or per party, or per address. And so that / no cost, that signifies the teenager.
Yes, we could probably make that a little more clear on our website.
Okay, cool. And then the rest of that process. So then the parties meet together with you guys.
So once everyone has paid their fees, whatever that is deemed appropriate, then we schedule the mediation. And typically from the time someone contacts us to the time that people are sitting down having a mediation, we try and keep that, within 4 to 5 weeks. If it's an emergency situation, we can certainly make that faster, but we find that about a month is pretty typical. So we can do all of our services through Zoom if we need to. We know Lewis County is a very wide county, and so sometimes folks are living, way out in Raymond or something like that, or PL, and they don't want to drive all the way in, or they can't drive all the way in. We can do everything virtually as long as you have internet. You can
able to do over the phone.
Yep, we can do that as well. So we can do over the phone mediation, and even if folks want to do it by Zoom but they don't have internet, they can come into our office and mediate from here. So sometimes we have parents living in Arizona or California, and we don't make them come all the way up here. So, you could come sit in our office and Zoom to them. So we try and make it as easy as possible for folks to do that. But yes, we can do it over the phone. So we'll schedule you for your mediation, and then you'll come and sit down, and either, screen to screen or face to face, you'll mediate, and the mediators will go over the whole process. They'll explain, kind of the ground rules, and that's where the two of you talk with the guidance of the mediator and come up with your own solutions.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds pretty easy. I imagine sometimes it's not.
Yes, it can certainly get emotional in there, and sometimes we go 3, 4, 5 sessions with folks because their issues are complex. But even if folks do not reach agreement, and they come in and they work hard and they share their point of view and they go back and forth and they reach no consensus, we generally find that is not wasted time, because you know more about the other person's point of view than you did before. You hopefully have felt heard and validated by being able to get your point of view across. And even if you don't reach resolution today, sometimes a good night of rest and a cup of coffee in the morning can help you see things more clearly. Or even if you do continue on to court, you are better prepared knowing the other person's point of view and have, said your piece. So we don't find that mediation is ever wasted, even if it is difficult to get through. So I encourage anyone to give it a shot. Even if they think, oh, there's no way this person's going to agree, it still could be a valuable tool.
For sure. Is it ever happen that there's a repeat mediation, that we had this one session and no, we got to go back and do it again?
Yeah, I would say a lot of our family cases, so parent-teen or parenting plan or divorces, usually go to 2 sessions. We sometimes will assign some homework in that first session. A lot of times people will come in and they realize, oh, they're missing some information that they need in order to make a good decision. So, we give people a couple weeks to go gather that information and then come back together with, all those details. So yeah, I think coming back for that second session, which of course is no additional charge, that's included in whatever fee you pay. So there's no pressure to resolve things in that first session. You've already paid for the second one. So give it a break and come on back.
Okay, that's really good to know. And I was going to ask that actually. And I see that some of them have 2 2-hour sessions, and some of them are 1 2-hour session. So what happens if you have like the parent teen or the landlord tenant, um, which are having like a 1 2-hour session? What if you've got to have more than one session?
Sure. So in those, typically, we find that the issue at hand can usually get resolved in 90 minutes to 2 hours, especially in landlord-tenant issues. They can be pretty straightforward. But if we do need to go to another session, we can either do that at no cost if there is no ability to pay. The most we would ever charge for an additional session would be $50. So if you really feel like, I really want to come back and have another 2 hours, you're not going to be starting the whole process over with another session. You'd, pay the $50 fee and get right back in there. And you don't have to go to the back of the line. You can, reschedule it at a time that's convenient for you. So we really try and make it as affordable and easy to do as possible.
Oh, that's so good to know. Thank you. So all of these different type of consultations you have here tend to be, we said what they are about, but have you ever had to mediate something with someone involving other legal matters?
That's a good question, and yes, especially when there is a division of property, there's a house that needs to be sold, or there's a property line infringement or something. There's so many laws in our great country that, pretty much everything you can sue over, or there's a legal ramification, contracts, things like that. So we do not practice law, and we make sure that people know that. We are here to help folks come up with a practical solution, and we always recommend that people get legal advice. Whether they have a cousin who's an attorney and they want to ask them a question and that's their version of legal advice, or they want to retain an attorney and, pay all the fees. There's also some free legal aid available through some, various avenues. I'm sure you're aware of what's available. We do really recommend that people seek legal advice because we do not practice law, and we want to make sure that if people are going to be writing a legal agreement that looks good to them, that they get a second set of eyes on it. We do feel like people should have the agency and the autonomy to make decisions for themselves, but we do live in a world that has rules that sometimes we're unaware of. So even if you have an agreement that looks really solid to you, it doesn't hurt to take it and have that second opinion and say, hey, is this hold up legally just in case, something goes wrong? So we would recommend that, people seek that advice.
Yeah. I do wonder, have y'all had to deal with anything involving ICE?
No, we have not. So that, thankfully, that is not something that we've had to deal with. I hope we never do, but I don't think we're not trained in immigration law or anything along those lines.
Is that not legal?
Yeah, no, I would. I don't know. That's a great question, but no, we haven't come up with anything yet.
Yeah. Previously, when I first asked about legal stuff, there was someone who had an attorney through the state, but that attorney was not actually really supporting her in her case. And so I was curious if a mediation of, how can I resolve this issue with my attorney who's not actually doing their job? Is that something that kind of comes a little
mediating between the client and the attorney, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Any two parties that want to walk in, we can absolutely mediate something like that. The two cornerstones of mediation that I think apply to the situation that you just mentioned would be balancing power. So a lot of times when there's a dispute, one person will feel like they don't have as much power as the other person. And that could be maybe they make more money, maybe they have a better education, maybe they're older and wiser, whatever it is. There's usually a perceived power imbalance, and sometimes there can be an actual power imbalance. And in the situation you're talking about, where you have someone who maybe has questionable immigration status or has issues with their residency versus an attorney who may have the perceived authority in this issue, there could be a power imbalance. And that's where the mediators can come in and help neutralize that, where we try and make it an even playing field. And I'm not going to go into all of the different tactics that the mediators can employ, but balance of power is really important. And then self-advocacy is important. We live in a society where there's a lot of advocating for others, and I think there is a huge place for that, whether you are a victim, whether you are struggling with any kind of issue. You want to have an advocate, you want to have someone in your corner, and that can be really difficult when people want their mediator to be their advocate. And it's one of the few places where we're not supposed to advocate for you. You need to advocate for yourself. And some people are not ready to do that. Some people need an advocate, in which case I would say you're not ready for mediation yet, and that's okay. But you have to be able to speak your mind and speak up for yourself. And sometimes once you balance that power, people find that they really can advocate for themselves. And so those are the two cornerstones of mediation, would be that neutrality and then being able to self-advocate.
Oh, I'm glad that you brought up the word advocate, because there are community advocators in other organizations. And I wonder if a person, maybe for whatever, I'm imagining a scenario, and there's a lot of different scenarios. But for an example, someone maybe has experienced a lot of trauma and just is not in the space where they can emotionally regulate themselves and advocate for themselves. And so they receive a service from another organization to help them advocate for themselves and come in and advocate for them. Would you mediate a situation where someone brought in an advocate for themselves?
Absolutely. So yes, that has come up in multiple scenarios, and we absolutely can do that. We want to make sure that the person who is an advocate is a support person and not a spokesperson. So they are welcome to either wait in the waiting room. Sometimes people want to have them wait in the car downstairs. It's the moral support. If they want to be in the room with them, that's absolutely fine too. We try and give them the least amount of support that they feel they need, because the self-advocacy is important. But if you need someone sitting right there next to you, holding your hand, absolutely, we'll allow that to happen. We just need to make sure that the other side is aware that that person's going to be there. And if they want to bring an advocate, they can. That doesn't mean that, you bring a whole posse of people in. We really want to make sure that people understand that that person is there to support you in you speaking for yourself. And that's usually what happens. I don't think we've ever had a situation like that go awry. It's usually really important that that support person is there to give them that physical and emotional, mental support that they need. And those mediations tend to go really well.
I like how you draw a clear line between facilitation and advocating and what your role is and what their role is.
Yeah. And
helpful.
Sometimes it can be hard for people to hear that, because we live in a place where there's lots of cheerleaders and lots of advocates, and I am all in favor of that. And sometimes when people hire an attorney, your attorney works for you. And as mediators, we don't necessarily work for you. We're working for a resolution, and we're working for the two of you to come up with your own solution. We don't get a bonus if you agree or don't agree. It really is up to you. And sometimes folks get in the room and they're not ready to agree, and we in good faith can't keep the conversation going. And sometimes we say, you know what, I think you guys do need attorneys, or I think you need to take this somewhere else. And that's okay. Mediation is a good option, but it's not the only option to resolve your issues.
For sure. You're an unbiased third party.
That's right. That's what we strive to be.
That's great. A large part of being afraid in conflict is the emotional dysregulation that comes with it. Have you had to utilize tools and teach people how to emotionally regulate themselves to be able to move forward?
Absolutely. And, a big part of our intake when we're getting to know people, we just call it conflict coaching. Usually conflict comes down to miscommunication or unmet expectations. And a lot of people don't know what to expect when they go into mediation. They don't know if they're going to feel emotional. They don't know if they're going to feel angry. And so we will kind of prepare them by saying, here's what it's going to be like. We can prep them with some questions and say, let's kind of role play a little bit, and they can say some of those things out loud to a neutral third party before they get into the mediation, and that can really help prepare people. Sometimes just saying things out loud and hearing your own voice say some of these things that you haven't had the chance to speak is really powerful. And so we do some conflict coaching, and we always want to make sure that people feel prepared for that mediation. And of course, just like any other highly emotional situation, you can take breaks at any time. You can step outside. No one's going to force you to stay in that mediation room. If things do get heated or emotional in a way that you are maybe surprised by, we can always kind of step away, come back in 5 minutes, come back in 5 days, come back in 5 weeks if we need to. So it's a very low pressure environment.
Have you ever had a conflict mediation session where maybe emotions escalated and someone felt unsafe, perhaps, and then when maybe the police needed to be called or something along those lines? Has anything gotten really crazy like that before?
Thankfully, no, we've never had to call the police. We absolutely have protocols in place, and we do annual training for safety, just because it is a highly emotional tinderbox in here at times, and we recognize that. So no, we've never had to call the police, but we do have our own personal training on safety. We have safety protocols in place. We've got the alarms if we need them. We don't allow any weapons on the property, of course, which is a rule that we really stick to, especially in Lewis County. People love to have their sidearms, and that's not allowed in the mediation room. But the mediators we have, whether they're staff or volunteers, are really attuned to kind of see where things are going. And as neutral third parties, we have some good objective observation skills because we are not blinded by the emotion that they are. Sometimes we can see when things are getting heated, and we can separate, we can calm down, we can use those de-escalation tactics that we train others to use. We absolutely employ those in the mediation rooms, and usually they're quite successful. Sometimes people just need time, and so the session does need to end, and we've had to do that a few times where we say, okay, this has reached its natural conclusion for today, and we're going to separate and give you some time. And that doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means that, we're full up on emotion for that day, and we need to separate and come back another time.
Oh, that's so good to know and so helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad you think so.
Yeah. Do you work with other organizations outside of the whole dispute resolution?
Yes, so we do. So we have partners in both counties that are pretty strong. We work with the Salvation Army in both counties as well. I sit on the board for Cowlitz County Salvation Army Advisory Board.
Counties being
Lewis County and Cowlitz County.
Okay.
And then we also work with the Lower Columbia Community Action Program down in Cowlitz County. They help a lot. And I believe they have an arm up here as well. They help with other services like housing and providing funding for folks who are looking for housing. Then it's formerly Cowlitz Wahkiakum Legal Aid, but I believe they've rebranded as Timberland Legal Aid. They have started providing services in Lewis County from Cowlitz County, and so they can provide you with legal advice that we can't. So I know that is a much needed service in both Thurston and Lewis County, is getting that affordable, approachable legal advice. So a lot of times we'll refer people to their services and say, I think this is a great solution that you've come up with, but I think you should have an attorney take a look at it. And so we partner with them.
Oh, that's awesome. How can people get involved? Are you hiring? Do you have volunteering, donating?
Yeah. We're not hiring right now. We have an amazing staff. There's 7 of us between the 2 counties that kind of balance all of our programs, and they're a very hardworking staff. I'm very lucky in that regard. And then we do have kind of a small cadre of volunteers who are well trained. They go through a basic mediator training, which is a 40-hour initial training. They do up to 12 hours of observing live mediations, just as a silent, fly on the wall. And then they have to go through a mock mediation and a written test. Once they pass all of that, usually takes 6 to 12 months, and then they can go and be a co-mediator. So we use a co-mediation model, meaning that any of your sessions, there's going to be 2 mediators for any 2 parties that are there. So they would be paired up with a senior mediator who would kind of take the lead, make sure everything stays on track and follows the structure that we have. And then after about a year of that, they can certify to become a senior mediator. So yes, we take volunteers. It is also a pretty stringent and rigorous volunteer opportunity. I know it's not for everyone. It takes some time. It takes some commitment. We do provide the training at a very, very discounted rate for folks who volunteer with us. And then people can just come and volunteer their time, which we are extremely grateful for. We would not be able to operate at the level we do without our army of volunteers. And then, of course, we also take donations. So the donations go to keep our fees low. We, just do one fundraiser a year. We usually do the Give Local South Puget Sound fundraiser, which we just did in November. That's kind of our big push to raise funds. We also receive some funds from the counties to kind of keep the lights on, keep things moving along so we can keep those fees low from people. But yeah, we'll definitely take your donations. Anyone out there listening, we do have a board of directors and we're always looking to add to that. So that's another way that you can volunteer. It's a lot less time consuming. So we have about 10 board meetings a year. It's, an hour long on a Friday. Everybody just Zooms in. But we're looking for folks. We have, 3 folks from Lewis County, 3 folks from Cowlitz County, and we would love to continue to add and, get up to maybe 8 or 10 people. Any experience is welcome because conflict is pretty universal. You probably have some experience with it. We have some attorneys on there. We've got some teachers on there. We've got some retirees. We have some business professionals. We would love to get some folks, from Centralia College on there, or even someone from one of the local high schools to pop in and be a board member. We'd like to kind of diversify our age range. So if you are looking for 20 hours a year that you can spare to volunteer, we would love to have you. There's a way that you can click on our website. There's a little form you can fill out if you'd like to be a board member. We would love to talk with you.
So how what's the process to become a board member?
So you would reach out to me and I would love to get to meet you, have a conversation, find out what your interest is and, kind of what you're up to and where you see yourself going. And then we have, I think, a 2-page application, but kind of talks about what other service organizations you have been a part of or are currently a part of and what your interest is in mediation. And we take that to the board. We all talk about you before you get there for a few minutes and make sure that, we don't have any conflicts of interest. And then we take a vote and bring you on board. So it's pretty low key. We have a great group right now. So if you have no board experience, don't worry about it. We have some seasoned veterans who would be able to kind of bring you under their wing. And it's a really great way to be involved in your community in a leadership role with very little experience. And there's not a lot of opportunities out there like that. So yeah, it's a good opportunity if you're looking to build your resume.
Cool. Do you accept internships?
We have never had an internship, but that has been something that we've been kicking around for a long time just because dispute resolution is half art, half science, and it's really one of those hands-on skills like counseling or teaching where an internship would be very useful. So that is something that we've looked into, but we've not done one yet.
Okay, that's good to know. Is there anything else you would like to share?
I would just like to encourage people who have an interest in mediation to reach out to your local DRCs and take a training. There's the 40-hour training, which is obviously, time consuming, but there are smaller trainings out there. There's videos out there. If you have a family or if you have a job or if you see people, you have conflict in your life. And whether or not you're in the middle of that conflict or you're just observing it, you can help be a part of the solution. And so I would say, our vision is to have a communities where anyone can approach conflict with confidence and hope. And a lot of people do not approach conflict with confidence and hope, but it is possible. So I would just encourage you to reach out and get the training, whether it's from our DRC, someone else, look up a TED Talk, look up a video. Don't be afraid of conflict. It's out there and it's not something that you have to be afraid of. I love being a part of the Lewis County a nonprofit organization, and happy to be here today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Laura.
You're welcome.
If you would like to learn more, get involved, or find resolution, you can go to communitymediationcenters.org for support in Lewis and Cowlitz counties, or call 360-623-8061 or email lewis@communitymediationcenters.org for Lewis County, and for Cowlitz, call 360-232-8622 or email cowlitz@communitymediationcenters.org. You can also stop by in person at 500 West Main Street, number 11 in Centralia, and 1338 Commerce Avenue, Suite D2 in Longview. For mediation in Thurston County, visit mediatethurston.org, and to find dispute resolution centers in other parts of Washington, please visit resolutionwa.org. Also important to note is that the intake forms do not work on Firefox, but do work on Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome. Mac or Linux users, if you have any trouble, please let Laura and her team know.
That's it for today's resource report produced by Pathways to Agency. At Pathways to Agency, we are driven by the belief that everyone should have the tools and support to achieve their goals and thrive in their communities. Our mission is to bridge the gaps in understanding, accessibility, and trust by connecting individuals to resources and sharing information and processes that can lead to personal and community growth. Resource Report offers information about existing and emerging nonprofits and resource organizations. Find out more at pathwaystoagency.org.
You can also find our shows archived indefinitely on rss.com/podcasts/resource-report.
Chaos Radio is not responsible or liable for any views or opinions expressed in the interviews conducted by Resource Report. Till next time, and thanks for listening.